building whatever for profit. This is just a bit of an update given government changes. As you know, the government has imposed a housing target of 4,421 units on Cornwall per annum. We've described that as unsustainable, inappropriate, and here's the key point. Even if you agree with it, it's actually unachievable. The government has also got a mechanism that councils have to be able to show a 5-year land supply. So they've permanently got to have in process 5 years worth of housing ready to go. Now, when the target is so high, that is also unachievable. And then the caveat is, again, in the National Planning Policy Framework, that if you don't have the 5-year land supply, your local policies do no longer have weight. And that's what's happening in Cornwall. So the government is basically saying, you don't have weight, the policies don't have weight, therefore the answer to a development proposal is basically yes, unless there are certain adverse impacts that are significantly adverse. Now, some things may still get refused. So for example, an awful development in a nationally protected landscape on the Roseland, for argument's sake, might get refused. However, if you live somewhere like me in Clay Country, pretty much things are not going to be thrown out at any point because you're not in an area of outstanding natural beauty, nothing like that. And the next knock on, I'll just use my parish as an example. We worked hard to get a neighbourhood plan, we tried to protect certain areas, we tried to get development to go into certain places. The high priority was affordable housing. Now, applications are coming in and we're opposing them, but we're losing at the moment, unfortunately. So they're building in areas which we wish them not to build in, or if they were built in, it should have been an affordable housing-led development. So at least half should have been local needs housing for local families. It's also happening as well that they're coming in with bite-sized chunks, and the government says in these areas you don't have to lead on affordable housing, and if it's less than 10 units, you don't have to do affordable housing at all. So guess what? In the Try and Play area now, there's a new magic number. It's called 9. So broadly speaking, the planning system is pretty much fractured because of an unachievable target, which is undermining the policy set. And I attended a meeting a couple of weeks ago at the Cornwall Growth Board. Is part of Cornwall Council, as cabinet members. They're taking the lead on a new Cornwall local plan, which will be 3-4 years away. And now there's also no protection. In the old days, once you did a plan, you had a 5-year protection zone if you don't have the 5-year land supply. That doesn't exist anymore. So I kind of asked the question, okay, so we're going to do this new plan, government targets, we're going to get a new plan, it's going to get adopted, and on day one they're going to turn around and say, you don't have a 5-year land supply, thank you for 3 years work, off we go again. So that's the mad world we're in. So the motion very much focuses on how much the housing target is actually breaking the planning system. The work we're doing on the council, we're trying to make people more and more aware of that. So I think it would just be really helpful if MK as a whole endorsed this motion, just to show that it's doing everything the wrong way. The other thing, of course, is they want a 5-year land supply, but by giving new planning permissions, it doesn't mean the houses are going to get built anyway. So you're even less likely to have a 5-year land supply because the people getting the extra planning permissions are already sitting on plan and they're doing it anyway. So it's a complete mess, and I'll move the motion as set out. Thank you.
Thanks. Have we got a seconder for that?
I'll second it as set out. Nothing further to add.
Comments? No?
What you just said, Dick, gives us a lot of background to that, and I don't disagree with the word that you said, and the motion also. The only thing that concerns me a little bit here is if you were reading that motion as it stands, it feels a little bit like NIMBYism. What's at the heart of this is that we keep building houses in Cornwall, but we're not building for Cornish demand, we're building for external demand. The Cornish housing market is now adjunct to the South East of England housing market. And that doesn't come through here, I don't think, in the motion. So I'm not sure how we can beef it up in a couple of sentences, and maybe Steve could help us on this, but you know, in the Institute, we just spent the last 3 years working on this stuff, and that is the message we just got to get through. That building houses in Cornwall will not solve our problem. We have to build houses for affordability, both in the public and the private sector.
It's worth just having an explainer into it, because DCLG, where MHCLG, whatever they call their own figures, show that between 2004 and 2024, 60,000 houses were built in Cornwall. And yet now, the number of homeless households has shot up to 27,500, which is more than anywhere else. So we're clearly not building houses for people in Cornwall. We have 35,000 empty or underused houses. In Cornwall we have our town centres, which in reality won't be re-commercialised in some parts of them. Walk down the road, have a look at Old County Hall. There's bricks going to the windows there. It's a scandal that that's empty. That could be nationalised now by a Cornish Parliament and have people living in it. It was refurbished. So I think it needs to be explained that way, because there are organisations like Homes Cornwall and people like that coming up, and very persuasive people like Coastline Housing, who are saying, oh, you know, we need to build houses because we've got a homelessness problem. But if we keep repeating what we've done, we'll just eat up more of the countryside, as that lady was saying. We'll have a less sustainable Cornwall because we're losing land for food production, which is a third of the Cornish economy. And we will keep reinventing the wheel. And I will bet my shirt that the new local plan in the year 2050, when I shall be 83 and I won't need a shirt particularly, that we will be in an even worse position than we are now. So you need to have an explainable form of words, would be my advice.
Yeah, I've got a lot of hands up. Do you want to come back on that, or do you want some more hands there?
Could I just, it might well be that everything that's being said is existing policy, so it's almost like if we agreed the motion as set out, but then there was a reference into it being agreed, that when we actually put on the website what we've agreed today, we add how it links to existing policy, which covers exactly what we're talking about. That way we can move it on. If I could just tell you one other, if you've not been to Cornwall Growth Board and various meetings in you won't heard me say this 20 times already, but my home parish, when I was, you know, before I was the councillor, roughly there were 1,000 houses. Now there are over 2,000 houses. So in my adult life, my community has doubled in size. And I'm trying to remember exactly what the figure is, but I think, so when I was young, you had the council house estates and you had about 135 social rented properties, good old council houses. We've now got 2,000 properties, and we have got approximately, in the rental sector, 135 properties. So basically what has happened is that you had like 14% of the community was that protected social sector. You then had the sell-off of the council houses, and what you've then had is some properties being rebuilt to try and fill that void. And by the time we fill that void, there's an extra 1,000 houses on top. And it's so much of this, and it's such a systemic problem. And in this place, those of us who are councillors, we tried so hard to address this and all the rest of it. But what you're saying is totally spot on, and we can certainly link this into that wider context, definitely.